Okay, we're about to begin the press conference. So first of all, good morning and welcome to our press conference. On Thursday, September 22nd, the Trillium Gift of Life Network reached a decision not to recommend presumed consent in Ontario. They advised the Ontario government about their decision, and Premier McGuinty supported the recommendation and went on to state that Ontarians would never accept the opt-out system. This morning, I'm here to strongly challenge both the decision made by the Trillium Gift of Life Network and the statement made by Premier McGuinty. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge our sponsor, Multimedia Nova, owners of Courrier Canadese and 13 other newspapers, and introduce beside me ex-MPP Barbara Fisher. She has something to say and will follow soon. I also have a statement from the NDP party, which will be read out. I need to mention that Mrs. Lolita Piccinini, who is scheduled to also be here, sends her regrets to everyone. In the last minute, she got pretty emotional and too many painful memories arose. And I just want to begin by reading out her letter. Lolita Piccinini is in the health and safety field with a nursing background. Due to the recent passing of her brother, she has not been able to be here herself. However, she has asked me to read this statement on her behalf. In the last year and a half, she has lost a cousin and both her brothers due to the lack of available organ transplants. Their deaths could have been avoided had there been more organ donors. I would like to state up front that I, Lolita Piccinini, am not affiliated with any movement, group, or political forum. This is my story, which I hope will raise awareness for the need for more organ and tissue donors. My two brothers, both in their 50s, passed away within the last 14 months waiting for organ transplants. Their hopes and dreams shattered. They were incredible men, full of life and purpose. They were loving and caring individuals who focused on giving back to society and impacting many people from all walks of life in a positive way. My younger brother, John, who we lost in June 2004, was a leader in his community, offering a vision to create an art center, which I'm proud to say is becoming a reality. John cared deeply about the people around him, and he was never too busy to give a helping hand to anyone who was in need. My brother Tom, who died only 3 weeks ago, was a brilliant math teacher for 33 years. He left a legacy of students who not only understood math, but life better because of him. The students held an honor guard at his funeral and coordinated a moving memorial mass as well. Tom had written a letter to each of the students acknowledging their strengths and positive qualities and encouraging them to stretch beyond what they thought they were capable of achieving. One of the students read her letter at the memorial mass, and she said she would keep the letter forever. Neither of them will be here to see the outcome of the seeds that they sowed. If there had been more organs available, I'm sure they would have been able to continue to live. But instead, I have to stand by with my elderly parents and watch both of them die a painful death and feel helpless at not being able to do anything about it. We are not here in search of pity. My brothers would have hated that. Instead, let their deaths not be in vain, but rather a catalyst for education and inspiration. You can make a difference by signing donor cards, encouraging others to sign donor cards, and find the means and ways to increase our donor rate. And we understand why you couldn't be here today, Lolita. About 2 months ago, while I was in the Toronto hospital myself, receiving my second liver transplant, 3 people on my floor died within 10 days as well. Ontario's rate of cadaveric organ donation has been very bad for many years now, and the demand for organs grows every year. Step by Step has claimed for the past 8 years is that our claim for the past 8 years is that Ontario has the potential to save everyone on the waiting list. For the past 8 years, Step by Step has brought this issue to the forefront in Ontario as well as the rest of Canada. We have many achievements to prove this, including the creation of the present-day Trillium Gift of Life Network. For the past 8 years in Ontario alone, we have promoted the importance of organ donations in over 100 cities and towns. We created thousands of events and activities in these communities. Millions of Ontarians have heard our message and had received donor cards as well. From school kids to churchgoers to the ethnic community and people from all walks of life, we heard their voices loud and clear. They were in favor of maximizing the potential of available organs, and as well supported the Spanish model if that's what it took to get the job done. We have this information documented, and we're going to prove it. Premier McGuinty, I met you a few times, and I really think that you're a nice guy, but your assumption that Ontarians will not support presumed consent is 1,000% wrong. We will prove this in our report and documentary, along with a questionnaire, which will target millions of Ontarians. A true Ontario voice will develop as a result. Premier McGuinty, we challenge the Ontario government to debate us on this issue in a high-profile public format. You can assemble your team and we'll assemble ours. The public needs to hear both sides of this issue so that they can make a more informed decision on which system Ontario should be using and not presume what Ontarians think. The issue at hand should be the Spanish model, which partly includes presumed consent, versus the Ontario model. In the spirit of our great province, Premier McGuinty, please accept our challenge. Thousands of lives could be depending on the outcome. And to the Trillium Gift of Life Network, we challenge your decision not to recommend presumed consent. Questions were, why was Step by Step not included when it came to addressing the board on this matter? And what information did you base your decision on? And why was this issue of presumed consent raised as opposed to raising the true issue of the Spanish model, which should have been the real issue? The public is hearing half the story right now, and it's not accurate. Our challenge to you is to invite us as a credible working group within your organization so we can both share in meeting our mutual mandate, and that is to save as many people as possible on the waiting list. This issue needs to become a top priority in Ontario, and that is why it is important to encourage dialogue at the water coolers and debate this throughout our entire province. It is our value system in Ontario that needs to get defined. And if we want to save everybody on the list bad enough, it can happen. They're doing it in Spain and other countries. Why not here? We have the potential. What could be more important than saving a life? I will now read the headline statement from the NDP, Ontario NDP Party, Peter Cormos, and I believe this release has been distributed, but basically the headline is, "Where's the McGuinty plan for organ donation?" And with that, I'm happy to turn the floor over to Barbara Fisher, and following her speech, any questions that need to be asked could be addressed to me, or if there's specific questions to ask Barbara, she's here to answer them. Thank you.
Thanks, George, and good morning, everybody. I'm involved because I care. I am a past member of the government that, in fact, funded the Ontario Trillium Gift of Life Network to the tune of $120 million. In 1999, Premier of the day, Premier Harris, made that commitment to Ontarians to move forward on the issue. It was because of George's work that, in fact, that fund was set up. It was introduced in a throne speech, and work began. It wasn't until about a year ago now, or maybe not even that long, that I met George personally, and it was through a friend that said, "This is a person you need to meet." I'm not here today as representing any political party. This issue doesn't have a political boundary, and people are missing that. What needs to happen is we need to move forward with passion and commitment to do what, in fact, the Trillium Gift of Life Network was set up to do. I've had the opportunity with George to meet with representatives of the network on 2 occasions. Prior to George going to Europe on his own expense with the support of the media network, we met with Trillium Gift of Life, and we offered to do the research and help prepare the educational pieces that are necessary so that the public can become more aware of and perhaps move forward towards becoming donors themselves. That was declined. Instead, they chose to hire a research person. We asked to work with that person. That wasn't permitted. We asked to meet with the board, by the way of which there are brand new members on. What a time, what an opportunity to bring this case forward and start afresh. If in fact for the past couple of years they haven't been able to move forward in terms of increasing the number of donors, then now was an opportunity to do it with these brand new board members. That was declined. Instead, we did a statement last week where the Premier of the province decides for all of us that Ontarians aren't ready. Based on what? One would question that. So we're not here to fight about it, we're here to help. George's step-by-step is a very, very impressive, strong commitment that has been made by a person who's been affected. I really just am an assistant. There's nothing in this for me except for to move the issue forward on behalf of George and every Ontarian, and where possible, every Canadian that has a need for a donor transplant. Just so you understand, there is an audit done on the number of transplants that happen throughout Canada. Just before George went to Europe, the announcement on this year's audit were made. It's a sad statement when we have $120 million new dollars into that organization since 1999, that there's a 0% growth in organ donations in the province of Ontario. The audit statement from last year says that. It's a sad statement that they can't see that we need to move forward, maybe in a different manner in which it's happening. So one would question where the money is and where it's being committed. To commit that they will make it mandatory that doctors, in fact, consult with the relatives of a deceased person is important. That can't be not. That's a step forward. But if that's as far as we've gone, in that amount of time with that much money, something is sorely lacking. The time is now to move forward. It's to move forward with the research that really needs to be done. It needs to be done collaboratively. It needs to be done in support and with the Ontario Trillium Gift of Life Network. That's a commitment that we made, and it hasn't been taken up yet. And hopefully today, this will change things. The education needs to happen. The public isn't aware. for somebody to assume that this would not be accepted is a wrong assumption. George says 1,000% times worse than ever. It might be more than that. It's not all about presumed consent either. This is something that has to go through a process. There are 23 other countries in the world that actually practice presumed consent. Canada doesn't have to be there at one step, but it needs to move forward. We made recommendations in May and June as to how to move forward. We were hoping, at least from those meetings, that some of that input would have been helpful in determining the next step for the foundation to move forward. Last week's announcement just ignored it. The public needs to be involved, and by whatever means it takes and is necessary for us to take, to find the funds to make that happen, we are going to move forward. Hopefully it can be collectively with the current government, but if it can't be, we're going to move forward anyways. The people are going to have the right to speak, and nobody should speak on behalf of other people on this issue until they've had the opportunity, number one, to be educated, and number two, to have the right to voice their opinions. And we will make that available to them. And I'm not going to say much more except for that I'm here to help George, and I will continue to do that. And hopefully we can move forward. I guess it takes a survivor to understand how significant this is. And when we know that there are 4,000 persons right now waiting for organs, and day by day people die who these organs could be obtained through and from. And I'm sure, if given the opportunity to have that decision, might have made that progress. So, in closing, I just want to say I'm here to support George, and we'll move forward.
Thank you. Before we start the questions, I want to recognize the leader of the Ontario NDP party, Mr. Howard Hampton, for joining us in the audience. Thank you for coming. And with that, we can open the floor with questions. What is the Spanish model? The Spanish model is a system that has been used widely, the term, by many countries, especially the ones that adapted similar systems. In 1989, they passed a law where everybody became an organ donor unless they opted out. But as Barbara mentioned, and we're going to keep on mentioning, it wasn't the only part of the Spanish model. As well, they organized special teams at every transplant hospital to not only comfort the family that was making the donation, but as well to take any vetoes from the family members. And I have statistics, because I recently came from there. During the time that this law has passed, there's been a minimal amount of family members that have vetoed the decision, and so that's the other part of it. And as well, they incorporated the non-heart beating donations to retrieve organs. In Canada, we're still practicing with brain dead only, and because as a result of incorporating the heart dead donations, there was increases anywhere from 20 to 50%, and similar results were shown in other countries that adapted that procedure as well. And there's other
can be whatever age you want to be, you still have responsibility. Just do it.
Are you still up in Kincardine? Or-
I'm here a lot of the time, I have contracts here right now. I'm
Oh.
a private consultant, so right now I'm doing some stuff with Arthritis Society and that type of thing. But
But you were based in Kincardine?
Kincardine, yeah, my home is still there,
Yeah.
and I'm there about, right now, about 1/3 time. But earlier this year, I was there half-time at least.
Yeah. That's interesting. We'll be going up for Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah? Where are you going?
Do you know the Grahams at all?
We were able to reach millions of Canadians and get their thoughts and feelings on organ donations. And as well, we're going to couple it with our recent European tour. And so what we're going to have ready for the public organ donations and prepare them to answer a questionnaire afterwards. And we're going to target over a million Canadians to answer this questionnaire. We're aiming to get Canada at the top when it comes to organ donations.
Do you think you're going to win this battle since the government said no to the idea of giving organs? Or do you think you have a chance?
Yes, I believe we are, when I say win, I believe that we're both going to win. Because after Premier McGuinty rejected the idea of a European-style system, I got a phone call from some other cabinet ministers that want to meet with me, as well as a meeting with the Australian Gift of Life Network on October the 7th. So I'm sure that during this time, we'll be able to appeal and review that decision, and we'll be able to convince the present government, who supported me, by the way, while the Harris government was in power. So I have a lot of friends and allies in the Liberal government that I'm sure will come and support me on this.
What's your reaction to the decision of the Australian Gift of Life to say no to the European system of the consent?
Well, we thought that the decision was based on poor information, and it was one-sided. They didn't offer us the chance to participate, to address the board during this decision, so we're challenging that decision, and we want to challenge their research on how they arrived at that decision with our research. And as I mentioned, we have 8 years of travels throughout over 100 communities in Ontario. So what we want to do is the good old Ontario way of debating and dialogue, and let Ontarians decide afterwards, not a few policymakers.
Let me understand how you are going to appeal if they say no. What's the avenue here? What's the appeal you have available to you?
I'm afraid if we exhaust all our efforts to appeal to them, we are going to go independent of the present government. I don't know if they have a policy where all the members have to follow the Premier when he says
Let me
something.
understand because I want to be clear on
Yes.
Australian Gift of Life said no, and when they say no means the government says no, and what kind of recourse do you have? Did you exhaust your chances to have the law changed?
We are going to pursue this independent of the present government thing. And we feel that we can get public opinion on our side. And I think once the present government witnesses that the public is on our side, they might have a change of heart, especially with elections coming up in a couple of years.
So basically now you are appealing to the public